So now the Punisher, he's been known to punch above his weight from time to time. And usually when that happens, it's because he's had time to prep and acquire the correct weapons for the job. But every once in a while, he finds out in real time that he ain't got those weapons. And this is one of those times. So with that said, we're getting back into Reborn Ultimate Impact with issue 2. So if you're enjoying these videos, be sure to drop a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell to get all notifications. Alright, so coming back, this continues with Miles Morales, who's looking for those origin boxes from Earth 6160 that he brought back to Earth 616 in Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion. But like we saw when he was attacked by Spot, this scuffle led to a crazy chain reaction when Miles hit Spot in the face with his Venom sword, causing his powers to go crazy and send these origin boxes all out to numerous locations, with Miles not having the slightest clue to where any of them went. So when we find him looking for them now, it's not like he has any kind of lead. So to him, it's like trying to solve a mystery with no clues. And then aside from the origin boxes, there are also questions, like what exactly did Miles' Venom sword attack do to Spot, with it seemingly shorting out his dimensional powers? And what could that mean down the line? But in the here and now, for Miles, first things first, he has got to find those origin boxes, because he doesn't know which powers are in them, or if they're going to create new superheroes or supervillains. But because he knows that this is now too big for him to handle alone, he's making his way to get some Avengers type help, and I can only imagine Tony's not going to be happy to hear this. And now from what we know, 4 of these origin boxes have been discovered. One was picked up by a guy named Ben Lerner in New Jersey, who also has the nickname Wonder Man, so there's that. The second was discovered by a girl named Paulina who works at Booth Media in Midtown. The third was discovered by a couple of kids, Lola and Max, while the fourth was discovered by Orson Booth, the owner of Booth Media. And as the story continues, we do a few brief check-ins as things build up with them in the background, starting with Ben Lerner, where after he opened his origin box, at work, on the clock, this dude's eyes just started burning. He started seeing red, and a few of his co-workers caught a glimpse of what was going on. But later on when he had it checked out, the doctor was like, I don't see nothing wrong, you're fine, with there being no signs of his eyes being burnt. So the doctor and his boss just told him to take the day, go home to his little girl, and his boss like, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow. And maybe then they'll be able to get to the bottom of whatever this is. Then after Ven, when we go to Paulina, who we saw discover a mysterious orb in the last issue, she's now knocked back by it, just before hearing someone say, Paulina, hey, are you okay? But when she looks up to see who's asking, she's spooked out by seeing creatures who are not from her realm. And again, much like what we got with Ven, we really just run through a few quick check-ins, where after Ven we got Paulina, and after Paulina, now we have Lola and Max, who in the last issue pulled a set of bands out of the origin box. And as they're walking through Central Park, for a moment when Lola's like she might pawn hers, Max is like, nah, we need to keep them. Then when they do a fist bump, the bands touch and they disappear, causing someone else from issue 1 to appear here in Central Park, who we'll be coming back to in just a moment. Because the main through line of this issue is showing us how Frank Castle gets thrown into the middle of all this. And that starts with Frank saying here, monsters don't wear rags and chains. They're not confined to cheap novels and scary movies. They wear pressed suits and drive nice cars. And they're very, very real. Because of that, they're very hard to track. They're slippery, protected. Money buys them time, influence. They think they're safe. They think they're untouchable. I'm here to prove them wrong. Monsters in stories hide under bridges, in caves, in rundown houses. The ones in real life, they're always hidden in plain sight. As Frank just drops on this dude's face. Like, watch out, watch out, watch out. But he says here, they're always hidden in plain sight. But the thing is, I don't want to just send them back to the shadows, where they belong. I want to send them all to hell. They never expected. I don't know why. Hubris, I guess. After all these years, you'd think they'd cover themselves better. But I guess that's the thing with monsters. Got no brains. Well, not after I'm through with them, they won't. That's my guarantee. But I got one more of those. Another guarantee. One for those people the monsters hurt. And that guarantee is that they don't get left behind. And you know, as this takes us through what's basically a day in the life of Frank Castle. You know, thank goodness he's not a vlogger. You know, like, let me tell you something, chat. But really, in a lot of ways, this is us following Frank on what's basically a normal day for him. But even with that being the case, do keep in mind that we have seen Frank punch well above his weight before, like back in the 2012 Thunderbolts series, when he basically took down the whole team after they tried to kill him. And this put him against the likes of Deadpool, Red Hulk, Ghost Rider. Because back when Frank joined the team, he already knew how he was going to take out all of them. And now I bring this up because as we see Frank's day go from normal to not so normal, I just want you to keep in mind that when things get escalated, Frank usually knows where to find the tools to handle the job. But then Frank goes on here saying the other thing about monsters, they don't scare easily. And now at this point, Frank's made his way up to this guy's condo, the same dude who set up the whole trafficking situation we saw before, and he just blasts this guy out the window. And he's like, they don't scare easily, but that's okay. I don't mind a challenge. Then when he says here the monster's gone, he wore his mask well. He fooled them all. Money means power, power means freedom, but not to me. So when they hunt me, I don't fault them. I've done this long enough to know that the mission needs doing regardless of laws and norms. It's my job, my mission. You don't have to stand with me. Just don't get in my way. It may seem shocking to some, but a good soldier knows when to fire a shot and when to find an alternative. Because now as Frank's making his exit, he does not want to use lethal force against the police because they're not the monsters, so to speak. They're just being used by them. Because he says here, they think they're protecting the world, maintaining peace. And he's basically like, I let them think that. But what they're really maintaining is a status quo. They don't know that the old world is dead and buried, that it has been for a long, long time, that it's the monsters paying their salaries and making their laws. Must be nice to not know the truth, to live in that fantasy, but I can't escape it. Reality has its talons in my skull. It won't shake loose. I hope it never does, because Frank is a man who loves his mission. But when Frank's getaway leads him to Central Park, Frank sees the officers who are chasing them, and he says here, they pursue because they must. It's their job. It's mine to stay in the shadows, because the mission is never complete. Then suddenly, everything shifts. The world cracks open like an egg, and right and wrong go out the window. Because when it comes to survival, there is no hunter, no prey. There's only you against death, and you better pray damn hard and hope you've got the upper hand. Because now these cops who are chasing Frank, they run into a very powerful someone who's just popped up here recently. And now what's going on in Central Park, it eventually makes its way to Orson Booth, the head of Booth Media who we saw in issue 1, who's also holding on to what he took out of the origin box. And with how this is done, you can tell it's designed to kind of build up the anticipation like, ooh, guess what he's got? Ooh, guess what he's doing? Because now as he holds on to this crimson artifact, he places it around his neck like a good luck charm just before receiving a call from Claudia, who in the last issue Orson went to for money. Because after he twisted and removed things from a report at her request, he was expecting her to pay for this favor by way of a potential generous investment, only for her to tell him at the time that her potential investment was not guaranteed. But now when Orson gets a call from Claudia, at first he begins to apologize for just popping up on her. But then when his voice changes and his eyes start glowing red, she then tells him that she's changed her mind about the investment. And that's just the start of many things going Orson's way. But also another thing to make note of, the girl we saw from earlier, Paulina, who was spooked in the bathroom, we're told here that the spooky figure she saw, who was asking Paulina if she's okay, it was actually her co-worker Ella, which confirms that Paulina's mysterious artifact is allowing her to see beyond this reality. But then it's here where Orson Booth, who's feeling like the luckiest man in the world, he gets the update on what's going on in Central Park, when one of his guys shown footage that was put on an Instagram reel or TikTok, where right now the Punisher is going toe-to-toe with Hostilicus from the negative zone. Now Orson's told if they hurry they can film it from where they are, but then he's like, no, we gotta get down there and make that story ours. So they go on to make their way. But meanwhile with Frank, who's at Central Park, going toe-to-toe with this guy, and really neither Frank or any of these other people know who Hostilicus the Devastator is, because we got his introduction in the first issue of Reborn Ultimate Impact, with him being the leader of the cult of Annihilus in the negative zone, where at one point he took the negabands from Marvel after he was stranded there. So the guy's toting some power. But as Frank's going up against him, he continues here, saying a cop becomes a literal weapon, arms and legs become jelly, man becomes a ragdoll, death's special touch. Monsters in New York City. We got all shapes, all sizes, but for monsters of this size, bullets may not be enough. And I don't know what will be. This wasn't the plan. I just got in his way and I'm paying the cost now. He seems unfamiliar with the rifle, but it intrigues him. He thinks this intimidates me. It doesn't. It just buys me time. Bullets kill a man, but to this creature, this monster, they're child's play. But a grenade, nobody wants to get next to one of those. The mission continues, but not with me dead. I use the chaos to distract. I flee to the shadows, to disappear, to regroup, and become a ghost among monsters. Because now the Punisher using this tactic really just to fall back so he can learn more about who he's dealing with here. For Frank, once he has that answer, then it's about getting the right weapon. But then it's here where Hostilicus is approached by Orson Booth. And Booth makes it clear right off the bat that he's not come here for a fight, but instead he has a proposition. Because again, his company, Booth Media, is struggling. So Orson Booth will do just about anything for a story. So when Hostilicus asks him, what can a puny creature on this fragile world possibly offer a follower of Annihilus? Booth's just like, oh, I'm glad you asked. And he tells Hostilicus, a warrior like you needs weapons. Well, I can guide you to this world's greatest, most deadly armories and stockpiles. In exchange, I want to be in the front seat for the Carnage. I give you these weapons, and you give me a story unlike any other. What do you say, partner? And Hostilicus accepts this offer. And you know, I can just imagine Tony Stark's gonna be so excited when he hears about all this. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here, who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/DopeSpill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.